Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Billy Bolden. I'm the Assistant Dean of Students for Development and Student Leadership and Director of Sorority and Fraternity Engagement. I'm excited to bring you another episode of SFE Stories. This week I have two special guests for you. Our Senior Vice President of Student Affairs at Iowa State, Dr. Toyia Younger, and our Associate Vice President of Student Affairs and Dean of Students, Sharron Evans. Toyia, Sharron, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm so excited. This is our first three-person show. So I'm excited to have you here and tell a little bit about your story. What we'll do to get kicked off is I'll let each of you kind of have your moment to shine and tell us a little bit about your story, who you are, how you got to this position, and a little bit of your background as it relates to sorority and fraternity in your professional role. So Dr. Younger, you are up first.
Awesome. Well, as Billy said, my name is Dr. Toyia Younger, and I'm the Senior Vice President here at Iowa State. I have been here for 10 weeks. I started on the first day of class, but I'm so excited to be here and be a part of this show. I am a proud member of Kappa Sorority Incorporated. Back in February of this year, I celebrated 20 years of service and sisterhood, and I am so pleased to be a part of this conversation today. I attended Michigan State for undergrad. It then went on and got a master's in college student personnel from Fraternity University, and ultimately my PhD from University of Maryland, College Park. I have spent all 20 years of my career in student affairs in a variety of areas, everything from student life to student conduct, res life to student activities. And so I'm excited to be here, share a little bit more about my journey, and continue this conversation that's so important about sororities and fraternities here at Iowa State University.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Younger, and congrats on 20 years of membership. Congratulations. It's a big accomplishment.
Thank you.
Hopefully, as the people want to know, active and financial 20 years.
You know it.
Awesome. All right, Dean Evans, it's your time to shine. Tell us your story. Tell us who you are. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. And thank you, Billy, for having us on the show. Hello, everyone. I'm Sharron Evans, Esquire. I am the Associate Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students here at Iowa State. And I've only been here for 5 months, and it is going wonderful. I have enjoyed it. And just a little bit about me. I am originally from Joliet, Illinois, born and raised, and an alumni of Illinois State University, the other bird school, as I call it, where I got a degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in human services counseling. And I also attended UIC John Marshall Law School, and I have a JD from them as well. And I have also spent my entire career in higher education, coupled with what I consider a side hustle, which is my legal career, which started in 2013. So I am just so happy to be here. I have truly enjoyed getting to know Billy and the sorority and fraternity community, and I look forward to having more discussions beyond this. So thank you again, and let's talk.
Awesome. Dean Evans, thank you so much for that introduction. Dean Evans, you got to tell us about your sorority affiliation. You didn't let us know and let us know that story.
See, I was so busy trying to remember where I've been. But I am a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I was initiated in 2001. And so next year will be my 20 years serving Delta proudly.
We love that. 20 years, 20 years all around. I'm not quite at 20 years. I'm getting close. I'll be at 17 this year. So
great.
Just a couple years behind that.
But I think, Billy, you were initiated in undergrad, right?
I was, yes.
Yeah. So I went through the alumni chapter, otherwise known as a graduate chapter.
Yes. And we're gonna come back and talk about that experience as well, because I think that's something unique to MPHC organizations and something that we should highlight here today on our episode. But I got to start off with kind of the obvious, easy question, and that's why Iowa State, right? You both have distinguished careers. You've been all over the place, and this year you've both chosen to take an adventure here at Iowa State. And so tell us a little bit more about that decision and what brought you to be a part of the Cyclone community.
Well, I guess I'll start it off. I've had a variety of experiences at campuses all across the country. And most recently, I was in Washington, D.C., working at a higher ed association. And while it was a great opportunity for me to kind of view the higher ed landscape from a national perspective, I've always known that I wanted to return to campus and serve students. And so I began looking seriously, I guess, for positions back on campus back in January. That was pre-COVID. And I had no idea that I would be returning to campus in the middle of a pandemic, to be quite honest. But when I interviewed here at Iowa State, the people were great. They really sold the institution for me. I have a lot of friends who came here for their graduate work, some friends who were faculty members here. And so in my conversations with them about should I really consider moving to Ames, Iowa, they share with me what a great place this is. And so far, so good. I have no regrets whatsoever. It's been a great transition for me. Sharron kind of paved the way. She got here a little bit before I did and made sure things were okay before my arrival. But, Iowa State is a wonderful community, very student-centered, which was something that was really, really important to me, and also has a great student body that's really engaged. And that too was very important. I wanted to be at an institution where students understood the importance of being involved and engaged on campus. And so that was one of the reasons why I chose Iowa State.
We love that. We love that. Dean Evans?
Yeah, I echo everything that Toyia said. I think for both of us, it was, we never thought about we would end up in Iowa. But I say that God works in mysterious ways and you can't help but to follow his plan, right? And so I was shocked when this opportunity came along. And as I started looking into it more and more and thinking about the boxes that I wanted to check, because I left my last institution. And at some point over that time, I was like, I'm not going back in higher ed. I'm going to go ahead and expand my legal practice. And I started doing that. But we have so many friends in higher education that support us, and they were determined to get me back in. And this opportunity came up, and same thing, student-centered university, university committed to inclusion. I wanted a larger institution. I wanted one that had a robust athletic program, because I've not had that unless I was at Illinois State during my undergrad and graduate year. And I wanted a division that had a track record of excellent service for our students. And it checked every single box except for the fact that it wasn't in the South in a warm climate. And I said, you know what? I can't go past this. The portfolio was just excellent. Ames is a quiet, student-centered community. And so I was like, this is where I need to be. And I am so glad I made that decision. Every day I'm thankful.
Well, it's something about Iowa State and our alumni and our students that I think draw more people in, So speaking of the South and warmer community, 8 years ago, I was happy living at the beach at Florida State. I get off work, I just take a quick hour and a half drive down to the beach and just could hang out and relax. And somehow somebody convinced me to look at this experience at Iowa State. And in honor of our second snow, just this weekend of the year already, I would tell you that when I left Florida State, the highest temperature that I had in Tallahassee was 110 degrees.
Wow.
And then my first year at Iowa State, the coldest temperature I got was negative 45 degrees.
Oh my God. So, don't tell me that, Billy. I'm not ready.
Yeah, we made that choice, and it's just a whole nother adventure that you get to have here at Iowa State. So welcome to you both. I know we're all thrilled to have you here and to share your experience with us.
We're happy to be here.
You both kind of talked about this, and so I want to dig a little bit deeper into the students. And so you both kind of talked about the robust student experience and how involved our students are in campus life. And I'm curious about your perspective of what do you think the role of fraternities and sororities is on a college campus, right? So we know we want this community to be highly engaged and highly involved, and we're known for that at Iowa State, but what do you think is that role and responsibility of sororities and fraternities?
Well, I think one of the roles is that they serve in a leadership position. While they may not always view themselves as leaders, they are. A lot of the programming and things that take place by sororities and fraternities are built on leadership development principles. And so, as we look across the spectrum with folks who are involved in all sorts of things from student government to clubs and associations, I think sorority and fraternity life rank right up there with them. I think that there are a lot of ways in which they can contribute. I'm grateful for the sorority and fraternity community. Just in my own transition here, I started a student affairs advisory board, and many of the folks from the Greek community are on my advisory board. And that has really helped me not only learn about the Greek community here, but also given me some ideas on other ways to get them engaged across the university. And so I think they play a very strong leadership role on campus. Many times, whether they understand it or not, people look up to them and want to be a part, want to learn more about their organizations. And so I think it's really key that members of the Greek community understand that they are viewed as leaders and that people are watching them. And the things that they can do to get students more engaged on campus are greatly appreciated.
Dean Evans?
Yeah. And I will add that they should be the forerunners when it comes down to public service and philanthropy, because I think just about every chapter that exists has those as their core values in reference to their programming and their initiatives. And they should be leading the way when it comes down to those things. I would echo what Toyia said in reference to understanding that your letters don't come off when you take them off. Once you commit as a member, you are a leader, you're a role model. Mm-hmm. And so I would really suggest that all members of Greek letter organizations, they take that into mind, at heart. And when they make decisions, understand that they're making decisions as representatives of their organization.
Yeah, I love that. And it made me think about, sorry, there's a fly or something in here.
I saw that. I was like, who is he fighting over there?
Get out of here.
I had another joke I was going to make there about the fly, but I'm not going to do it.
Listen, I was about to say it. I'm not going to allow myself to just let a fly sit on my face and not fly away. It's got to go.
Where's
it doesn't
the fly
belong
swatter? Where's the fly swatter?
It makes me think a little bit too about our NPHC or the National Panhellenic Council experience which both of you are members of those organizations, and think about how those organizations have a propensity to better demonstrate the lifelong commitment than sometimes organizations in our other councils. And that's no disrespect to other councils. I think I would say we've got a great community of incredibly engaged alumni who truly fulfill that lifelong commitment here. But I'm curious from you about your perspective about why do you think NPHC in particular does such a great job of that lifelong commitment and the graduate chapter experience?
I think it's a variety of reasons. For example, my mother pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha in 1970, before I was even born. And so I think one thing that you find within the NPHC community is this rich history and legacy of membership that's passed down throughout generations. Also, I think, one of the things that is so unique about our organizations are the continued work in service. We often encourage people once they graduate from undergrad to immediately join a graduate chapter so they can continue the connectivity. And we do it for a variety of reasons. One, we want them to stay connected to the sorority, of course, but there's this ideal of lifelong service and sisterhood that transcends just the 4 years or 5 or 6 at the university. And so, that's one of the things that I love about sororities and fraternities for that matter, particularly in NPHC. I can pack up and move anywhere across the country and pick up the phone, shoot an email to the graduate chapter and identify sorors in the area who are going to look out for me. And that's exactly what happened when I moved here, to be quite honest. It doesn't matter how old or young, you all share a special bond, and it draws people in for a lifetime of service. Additionally, I think one of the things that is so unique is that a lot of people within the sorority who have sororities, NPHC sororities and fraternities who have gone on to do major things have never forgotten their organization. And so you hear people like Kamala Harris talking about Alpha Kappa Alpha. You hear Jesse Jackson talking about Omega Psi-Phi. You hear all these amazing deltas and the work that they're doing. And I think it's instilled in us from the beginning that this is not just a 4-year situation, but this is a lifetime of service. And so when you say your vows, you're pledging to be a lifelong member of this organization. And that means service, it means sisterhood, it means so many things. And I think that that's one of the things that keep us going strong, even after the undergraduate experience.
And indeed, Evans, you alluded to this in your introduction that you joined through a graduate chapter. And so tell us about that experience and how that may be unique or different than what students are typically used to.
Yeah, I think it's very unique in the sense that obviously the undergraduate experience generally is very different from when you get to grad school or beyond. And so, you can join as a graduate student, you can join as a full-time professional. I actually was a full-time professional, but some of my line sisters were currently in grad school when we went through the process. And, one of the things is that you're dealing with a group of people that have had some additional life experience. And so I think because of that, the process goes a lot differently. The social aspect is not as important as it is in undergraduate. So I would say that it does allow you to focus more importantly on those key values and those initiatives. But also the graduate chapters serve as a support to the undergraduate chapters. I think in every NPHC organization, there's a connection there intentionally. And so, I think that could other organizations have been like that outside of NPHC where they have this graduate chapter, which facilitates this lifelong commitment? Yeah, I think by happenstance, that's just not what was envisioned when non-NPHC organizations were created. I think because we are historically Black organizations and the struggle that we went through to actually have these kind of organizations, that's what fueled the vision that this was something that's going to be a lifelong commitment, because the commitment to enhancing our communities is a lifelong commitment.
Absolutely.
So I appreciated my process. I'm not saying it was easy. It wasn't by any means, but what I learned, even beyond my own research, and the sisterhood that was developed there and the bonds is just irreplaceable. And I'm so glad that I made that choice to join.
Most definitely. And I think that that's something that's probably worth highlighting and talking a little bit more about it is the graduate chapter experience and how it exists, because, there are IFC or Panhellenic and MGC chapters that do have alumni chapters or some regional groups, as well as some multicultural groups that have like national coalitions that sit together, or regional groups that provide that alumni experience. But so much of the way that those groups are designed is truly about the alumni. Whereas I think that's kind of unique around the NPHC graduate chapters is it is about the graduate experience and the alumni experience, but there is also a fundamental core belief there in supporting the undergraduate chapter. And then in many cases, like our Delta Sigma Theta chapter here at Iowa State is a great example of this. The chapter is actually originally founded here as a regional chapter in Des Moines, which is why it's such an old chapter and being the Phi chapter. And so it wasn't originally tied to the university. Over time, it became that charter to the university, but it originally was just a regional chapter to support at the time, Black women in the area who needed that extra level of support and camaraderie. So I think it's interesting. I think when you learn the differences in organizations and learn how they're constructed and how they show up in everyday experience. So if a student was interested in learning more about sororities or fraternities, what advice would you give to them?
Do your research. I think that there's a lot of people who are interested in Greek life as a whole, and they have their perception of what they think Greek life is. And there's a difference between Greek life and being a member of a sorority or fraternity. Some people see Greek life as parties and living in a house or whatever the case may be, and they don't really know what these institutions or what these organizations are built upon. And so I always tell people do their research. And so I have people come to me all the time. I want to be an AKA. Why? And they can't tell me. They can't tell me what we're built on. They can't tell me what we're about. They can't tell me, I want to do service. Well, you can be a Delta because Deltas do service too. Zetas do service. Sigma Gamma Rho does service. What else? What is it? And so I always encourage people to do your homework. I mean, we all are based on the same principles, and we all have our own unique characteristics. And so I always want to encourage people, you wouldn't just, I hope even when you chose where you wanted to attend college, you did your homework. You didn't just pick Iowa State because your parents went here. And some people do, and I get it. Yeah. But you want to learn about the institution. You wanted to learn more and figure out if this is going to be the right fit. I say it's the exact same thing when wanting to join a sorority or fraternity. You want to learn not only about their history, learn about the members, learn about the current members of the chapter, etc. And so it's a process. It's not just, I want to go out and be a part, I want to belong, which I think some people just want to belong to something. But I think it's important that you do your research and learn the history of organizations before you make a decision about which one you want to pursue membership in.
I would echo that, and I would add to that, which is very connected to what Toyia said, is ensure you understand why you're joining. And so many people decide to attempt to join an organization or do for the wrong reasons, and they get in, and there's some problems around that. There's plenty of information out there that you can find. Delta in particular, we have that book In Search of Sisterhood written by a soror. Now that's not necessarily an official book, but she gives an overview really of the good, the bad, and the ugly about the sorority, because none of us are perfect. And so I've actually directed a couple of friends and persons of interest to that book to say, read this first. And then, also, if you're not comfortable necessarily having a conversation with an undergrad, find you an alumni member and have a conversation. I'm willing to have that conversation and ask the question, how did you make that decision? Because it's a very personal decision, but it's also a lifetime commitment.
Exactly.
So you want to make the right decision.
And I think you brought up some good points here. We've got to balance both those pieces, because we know that people join people first and foremost, no matter what the experience is, even outside of Greek life. We have this propensity to join people who are like-minded or folks that we aspire to be. And if we do our research and we understand the core value and mission of an organization, and then we meet the people, well, we're going to know real quick if they're living out that core value and mission or not. It'll be a clearer picture to join an organization that we want to join.
Right. Well, and that goes back to what Sharron was talking about. It's a lifetime commitment of service, of sisterhood. And then you also think about, it doesn't just stop, and I think Sharron made the statement, you can take your letters off, but they, you might take off a sweatshirt, but people still know who you are. And so they're watching you, Billy, just like you said, they're watching your behavior. And so you have to ask yourself, am I representing my organization well when I do certain things?
Definitely. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about your professional role. So you're both in some senior leadership positions here at Iowa State. You're often responsible or help assist in the responsibility of policies and protocols and procedures at Iowa State. I'm curious to know a little bit more about your vision and what can students expect from your leadership here at Iowa State.
Do you want to go ahead, Sharron? Or?
Sure. I think the easiest way to explain my vision, and I think it's the vision of all institutions of higher education, is that you want students to have a seamless and developmental experience. And so that phrase is just loaded with all kinds of things under there, that has to do with how we serve our students, how we respond to them, how do we proactively plan for them, but also how do we ensure that we have opportunities for everyone on campus, meaning an inclusive campus of opportunities that's going to put them in a position to be successful, not only while they're in college, but after college as well, when they walk out there in their career. and to be global leaders. I think that's our goal. And so whatever it takes to move the needle for the university, for the Division of Student Affairs, for the Dean of Students portfolio, that's what I'm committed to as a professional here at Iowa State.
I love that attitude too, of whatever it takes, right? Like this core principle that we believe in creating this access for everybody and make it seamless and as least difficult as possible. And we're going to make that happen no matter what it takes. So I love that perspective. Dr. Younger?
Well, I laugh because nobody has any clue what I do. If you ask my family what I do, like nobody grows up and says, I'm going to be the senior vice president of student affairs one day. And so I always kind of laugh at this because people are like, what do you do and why? And I remember my first job post-master's, I was working at a community college and their slogan was, we are in the business of changing lives. And that really stuck with me. So when people ask me what I do, I say I'm in the business of changing lives. And I view it as a lifelong journey. As Sharron mentioned, this is an experience. You have this collegiate experience, and your collegiate experience consists of academically, socially, psychologically, and all the things that take place. And so I feel like my job is to help change lives. I want you to come into Iowa State one way and leave a different way. And that doesn't mean changing who you are. It means growth. It means development. It means obtaining your degree. And I also want you to have a great experience while you're here. And so that's why I tell people I'm in the business of changing lives. I believe that when you come in as a freshman, you'll have some amazing experiences. You'll meet people from all over the world. Your perspectives may change. Your views of life may change. God knows your major is going to change, but at the end of the day, when you get that degree and you're walking out of here, you're a changed person and you're able to go forth and pursue graduate school, career, whatever it is. And during the time that you're here, we're helping to mold you and shape you and give you these experiences that will help you leave us as a different person.
Love that. Dr. Younger, what I heard you say is that it's a lifelong commitment, just like sorority membership. Right?
Absolutely. You see where I was going there? You see how I brought that together?
Yeah, you did such a great job there. Such a great job there. Well, it's hard to believe we're almost at the end of our time, right? Time flies when you're having
started.
Fun. Right.
We like hanging out with you, Billy.
Yeah, so we got to move to our wrap-up questions, and everybody gets the same wrap-up questions. It's the only way to do it that it's fair. And so the first question for you is, I'm curious about a line from or a quote from a poem or a creed or a symphony or a song or something from your organization. So some quote that you can give us from your organization that helps guide your life today.
Well, I think for me, it's part of our hymn, which says we help each other. And that's what we do. It's part of who we are in our mission of service, but it's also who we are in terms of sisterhood. And so, I absolutely love, as I mentioned earlier, that I can pick up the phone or email someone that I know is a member of my sorority and say, hey, I just moved to Ames, help, and that they will reach out to me and they'll help me. They'll help me get acclimated. They'll help me find people to connect with, all those things. And so I think that's one of the things that I absolutely love about our hymn is we often talked about the uniqueness of our sisterhood and how we help each other.
I love that. Well, I know when I first moved to Ames, my fraternity brothers reached out to me and just invited me to lunch to say, welcome to Ames, right? Let's just connect and get to know each other and make sure you have what you need and know where the dentist is and all those other important
everything.
Yes, I appreciate that. Dean Evans?
As far as Delta Sigma Theta goes, I would have to say that our public motto is one that's always stuck with me, which is intelligence is a torch of wisdom. But personally, I wanted to share a poem. I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to tell you what it is. It's very well known. But I heard this poem for the first time back in the day when I was in Res Life, a new professional, during diversity training. And that's when we called it diversity. The inclusion wasn't around. And our director of housing introduced us to this poem. And I think he heard it initially from Nelson Mandela, but the original author is Marianne Williamson. and the poem is called Our Greatest Fear. And I'm sure you all have both heard of it, but it's really about taking ownership of your greatness and not shying away from your greatness to make others feel comfortable. And understanding that, God has given you this greatness, that you should embrace it and step into the light. And that when you do that, you give others permission to shine as well. And so if you ever go back and read that poem, just read it. But it's very powerful. It's something that I've used in training, but also in my personal life. And it's just something that stuck with me for years and years.
Love that. Which kind of takes us into our next question, which is about what are you reading? So reading, watching, we'll throw in listening, like a podcast. It can't be the annual reports. Right? It can be something different. But it can be professional or it can be personal.
Mm-hmm.
But two things that you're reading, watching, or listening to.
Well, right now, I just finished reading How to Be Anti-Racist. As you guys can imagine, with everything that was going on in society and George Floyd and everything else, there was a lot of people putting out books about different things. And so I read How to Be an Anti-Racist, which was kind of my intellectual stimulation. And I do try, and it's hard. You're saying not to read an annual report, but I know Dean Evans can attest to that. Even in our downtime, we're reading something.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, as soon as I wrap up here, I'm reading applications for something. So we're always reading something. What I'm watching is a different story. I am completely into Netflix, Hulu. I don't even think I watch regular TV anymore. So I am finishing up Schitt's Creek. I had only watched the first couple of seasons and then I stopped, and then all of a sudden it became popular again. So I'm trying to hurry up and finish that up. Unfortunately, I am obsessed with 90 Day Fiance. That is the only regular TV show I watch. I'm in a Facebook group. I'm in chat groups about it. It's pretty sick and twisted. But I think I started watching reality TV when I was in graduate school because I was thinking so much. And so I needed to do something that required no thought. It was absolutely silly and crazy. And that's how I got into my reality TV. So if I'm not reading something, I'm probably watching something that is going to make me laugh and not think about any of the real things happening in life right now.
Dean Evans?
What I'm reading besides annual reports, which I have one right here, that I started reading this weekend, the DSO annual report. I'm an audiobook person because law school kind of damaged me in reference to the amount of reading. I switched over to audiobook. So the one that I'm listening to right now while I walk my dog is Sycamore Row, which is the same author that wrote A Time to Kill. It's actually a spinoff of that book. It is very legal related, and that's probably why I was drawn to it. I tend to be drawn to those kind of books, but I'm very diverse in my books, from autobiographies to African-American authors writing about the Black experience. I love series, so I'm a big Harry Potter person. I've read Divergent. I've read all of the Hunger Games. Well, let me say, listened. I didn't read. So you name it. But TV, I'm kind of like Toyia. I've become this Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu person. But I am very excited because I saw last night that This Is Us is coming back on.
Yes.
So I am a This Is Us person. But I'll watch any reality show. I'm not really necessarily tied to any of them, but I don't watch a whole bunch of regular TV. It's really about the series that come on Netflix and Amazon Prime. So yeah.
I'm very similar in that way that for me, reality television is a way to just let my mind go, and I don't have to know all the details.
Yeah.
And you realize your life is really not that bad.
Right. And know that I'm also a big fan of like game shows. So like the reality game shows become like that's my thing. Like Big Brother, if I ever get picked, Sharron, I'm gonna be out.
I know.
Because I'm gonna be on the show. So.
Yes.
Yeah. But I'm gonna give up this year.
Wipeout. Do you all remember Wipeout?
I do. Yeah.
Now you're showing your age, Sharron.
I was gonna give up Big Brother this year. I've never missed an episode of the show, and I was gonna give it up this year. And then I went back and I caught up, and I can't give it up. So I've seen it. But the two books that I'm reading right now, I'm actually trying to do some prep for the class I'm teaching this spring, the Sorority and Fraternity Leadership course. So I'm reading Find Your Why by Simon Sinek, which is it's kind of a workbook style textbook to go along with, his famous TED talk about Start With Why. And then this other book here, which is one of my favorites, written by one of my fraternity brothers, Motivating the Middle.
Yes.
T.J. Sullivan has wrote this. So just trying to read through them and make some additional notes and get ready for the spring semester, before we get started there. All right, it is time for the final question, which I think this is, yes, drum roll, yes. It's the hardest and the easiest question all in the same question. And that is, we want to know one thing that brings you joy in life.
Oh, that's very hard. Well, because there's a number of things, but I will have to say one thing that absolutely brings me joy is my family when they are healthy and prospering.
That's a good one. I'm trying to think of just one because there's a lot of things that bring me joy. I know it sounds cliche, but I find joy helping others. On my worst day, if I've helped a student do something, then I'm reminded about why I went into this field, and it brings me joy and it grounds me and makes me feel centered. Also, something that does bring me joy that I haven't been able to do, so I'm probably sad, and that's why I didn't bring it up. I love traveling. I love exploring new places. I love traveling, particularly internationally. I just think it's when I plan a trip, I don't just say, oh, I want to go there because everybody else is going. I want to get immersed in the culture. So I read the books. I find out all the unique things that I have to do. And those things bring me joy, just seeing how other people all across the world live. So
we need to travel together because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm all about the culture and the history. I love it. I just don't travel just to be there. I actually learn and experience and explore.
Absolutely. I want to eat the food. I want to do all those things. So I think it's learning about others and helping others. Those are the things that bring me joy.
I love that. I love that. Well, such great wisdom, such great advice. It's been such a pleasure to have you sharing a little bit more about your story with us today. I can't wait to continue to learn so much more. And I know our students are looking forward to many interactions with both of you in your leadership here at Iowa State.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you for having us.